Recently, more people have started to claim that the benefits of intermittent fasting are not as great as they seem, and that the effectiveness of it has been exaggerated. And some even suggest that intermittent fasting could be harmful to your body. What is going on, YouTube? This is Johan Kim. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to talk about intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting has become extremely popular over the past few years. It gained even more fame after scientists and Hollywood celebrities introduced it through shows and podcasts, leading many people to try this dietary approach. However, as with any popular trend, there's always a downside. Recently, more people have started to claim that the benefits of intermittent fasting are not as great as they seem, and that the effectiveness of it has been exaggerated. And some even suggest that intermittent fasting could be harmful to your body. Then, whom should we listen to? Who's right in this debate? So today, as someone who has been practicing intermittent fasting for a long time, I'd like to share my experiences and discuss the misconceptions people have about intermittent fasting. If you've been curious about this topic, I hope to clear things up for you in this video. Alright, let's get started. The first point people often raise is that intermittent fasting doesn't offer any special benefits compared to a traditional calorie reduction diet. Their main argument is that the weight loss achieved through intermittent fasting is simply due to the calorie deficit created by skipping 1 or 2 meals. To this, I'd say that I partially agree with them. Studies have shown that improving insulin resistance, one of the main benefits attributed to intermittent fasting, can also be achieved by simply reducing overall calorie intake. I also believe that insulin resistance can improve when you change the quality of the food you eat. Moreover, the benefit of autophagy, which is often cited by proponents of intermittent fasting, is actually quite difficult to achieve with time-restricted eating like 16-8 or 18-6. If someone suggests that simply skipping breakfast can trigger autophagy, I would say that's definitely an exaggerated claim. However, I also want to point out that the effectiveness of intermittent fasting lies in its simplicity in creating a calorie deficit. I don't think many people would argue against that. While it varies from person to person, I find it much simpler and more satisfying to skip one meal and eat a bit more during the remaining meals than to eat smaller portions at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I also have a tendency to keep eating if I don't feel full, so for me, skipping a meal breakfast to eat more during my eating window is a better choice than feeling unsatisfied during the day. For these reasons, I've been able to maintain my physique and avoid excessive fat accumulation without much difficulty for a long time. I believe this convenience is the key factor that helps people lose weight more easily. Even if the health benefits of intermittent fasting aren't as extraordinary as some claim, if it helps people lose weight more easily, isn't that good enough? Next, let's address the concern about muscle loss. I've mentioned this in a previous video, but I want to tell you this again. I think the chances of muscle loss with intermittent fasting are only significant in 2 scenarios. First, if someone doesn't do resistance exercise at all, and second, if someone practices fasting in an extremely radical manner. If you don't fall into either of these categories, I don't think you have to worry about muscle loss. Before I started intermittent fasting, I was very focused on bodybuilding and was extremely concerned about muscle loss. I used to eat more than 4 meals a day. This meant waking up early every day, to eat a high-calorie breakfast before school, working out after school, eating a late dinner, and then going to bed. I even drank protein shakes during class. That's how passionate I was about building muscle. And even now, building muscle is still quite important to me. But what I can tell you now is that muscle loss doesn't happen as easily as you might think, and eating just 2 meals a day with sufficient calories and protein won't significantly hinder muscle growth. Our bodies are much better at storing energy than we give them credit for. If they weren't, our ancestors wouldn't have survived. While I agree that our brain views muscle as non-essential for survival and tries to eliminate it quickly, I want to assure you that missing a few meals a day won't cause dramatic muscle loss. If you work out consistently with intensity and consume enough protein, I can guarantee you won't have to worry about losing muscle. The last point I want to address is the claim that fasting can be harmful to health. According to those who make this argument, fasting can lead to nutrient deficiencies over the long term, and this can result in the overproduction of stress hormones like cortisol, which can negatively affect hormonal health. First, I think it's important to acknowledge that fasting, by its very nature, does put stress on the body. It's not that fasting itself inherently makes you healthier. Rather, like exercise, it's the response to the stress that helps your body become stronger and healthier. Just as excessive exercise can lead to overtraining, causing sleep disturbances and chronic fatigue, excessive fasting can lead to nutrient deficiencies and consequently hormonal imbalances. However, this isn't a problem specific to fasting itself, but rather an issue that can arise from any diet if it's not properly managed. So I'm against creating unnecessary fear around fasting. There was a time when I was extremely enthusiastic about the benefits of fasting, and I ended up fasting for too long with too few calories. During that period, I felt completely drained of energy and spent several days feeling lethargic. However, I think this issue wasn't due to fasting itself, but rather because I didn't have much body fat at the time and was consuming too much coffee, which likely led to dehydration and electrolyte imbalance. If you have a bit more body fat and don't misuse coffee to suppress hunger like I did, I believe there won't be significant health issues. If you're curious about how to use coffee effectively while intermittent fasting, check out the link above in the video. So, regarding the claim that intermittent fasting can be harmful to health, I believe that if the diet is properly structured, the side effects can be minimized to the point where they are almost negligible compared to other diets. In the video, I may have seemed to take a humble approach when addressing the opposing arguments about intermittent fasting, but that's because I acknowledge that there might be some validity to their points. But I truly believe that intermittent fasting can be highly effective compared to other diets. While intermittent fasting isn't the only diet that can improve insulin resistance, I'm confident that it's the fastest and most reliable method. And also, I think the reason people struggle with dieting isn't just because of a lack of scientific knowledge, but because it's difficult to change their behavior patterns and eating habits without clear guideline. Intermittent fasting works well for many people because it provides a clear goal with a set time frame, which is fasting window, and offers the tangible reward of a more satisfying meal when the goal is met. In that sense, intermittent fasting is not only effective, but also practical. What do you think about today's content? If you have any other opinions or questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm always open to discussion. Anyway, that's all for today's video. See you in the next video.